Hello everyone, and welcome back to our Facebook page. I am Kimberly. I am coming to you again from our workshop, and we are painting some furniture here. You guys, if you were with us, I think I went Wednesday morning because we were having issues with our live on a Tuesday evening. Normally it's Tuesday, Thursday evenings. And so anyway, it's probably 190 million degrees in here, 90 degrees for sure. It has been in my workshop, so it's warm. So the furniture I'm working on, it is getting painted, it is getting baked on. So my cure time is a lot quicker right now due to the fact that, the heat's working with me. I'm going to welcome you. If you have stopped scrolling, thank you for joining us. I am working on a couple of tidbits tonight to kind of show you guys. I'm working on some dry brushing techniques. Some of you may already know it. Some of you, this may be new to you, and it's all brand new to you. I've had several people come on asking us some questions about some of the things that we're doing, so we're glad that we are answering some of those questions for you, and also showing you some information you may not have seen yet. So again, if you're here, let me know you're here so I can welcome you, and thank you for joining us. And I'm going to get started because this is probably going to be short and sweet since it's very hot, and I apologize if you hear the fan running in the background. That's one thing I do need to check. Hopefully I have got us squared away to where our volume is working and you guys can hear us okay. And just let us know. Apologize for the look. Yes, it's been hot and I have been out here sweating and trying to get this set done, which hopefully will debut tomorrow, weather permitting. So I'm going to go ahead and get started. I am working on this French Provincial set that we have mentioned earlier in the week. Now, this is the first thing I did is clean it. Always clean your piece. I use White Lightning Cleaner because I do feature Dixie Belle chalk paint products in these live workshops. So I did put some Slick Stick on these pieces. Now the only place I put Slick Stick on was the very top because it was super shiny. So I did apply one coat of Slick Stick. So that's going to create some adhesion for you. If you have never used it, it is great for glass, glossy slick surfaces, even plastics, ceramics, metal, anything you want to paint that is a slick surface or a little bit harder to paint. All of us, somewhere in some point in your life, you guys have had a mirror, probably like this mirror here in the back. We're going to dry brush this mirror back here. This was just a gold plastic mirror, but it has some nice detailing on it, which we will kind of pop out here on this video to kind of show you how we pop that out. And also on the handles of the hardware here, you might can see, I don't know, I'm going to tilt you up just a tad, see if I can here. So you can kind of see the hardware on this piece here where we've come in, we've dry brushed the color, the white in this up here. The color that I am using, actually I was going to use fluff, but since I had a 16-ounce jar of cotton, I just went with cotton on that. And also our Manatee Gray. Now I have two 16-ounce jars. This is half full and this is half full. And I have painted 4 pieces of furniture as well as the mirror with it. So just so you know, that's how far Dixie Belle paint will go. So we're at half a jug on these. So you could have bought an 8-ounce jar. I know that sounds crazy, but an 8-ounce jar, because I am two-toning it, you could have gotten by. You'd probably been real close, but you'd have probably been able to be successful. So I have enough in here to paint me a couple more projects. So, so if you think your 16-ounce jars, just to be safe on the safe side, and you get them, you'll have extra so that you can continue on maybe painting a couple of other pieces once you get the hang of it, or if you like the color combo together. So I'm going to come back in and I'm going to show you what I'm going to do here, and I'm going to bring you hopefully our don't look at me guys because I know I'm probably a wreck because I have been sweating out here. Hey Terry, how are you? How is your, I'm anxious to see, Miss Terry is working on painting some fabric. So hopefully she's going to share with us. Don't worry about the background. I got a mess, guys, because I'm working in here. You know, you got to make a mess before you can make something happen, is what I always say. So she's working on some upholstered pieces that I'm anxious to see when she's finished. So she's painting some upholstery. So let me know how that's going, Miss Terry. I'm anxious to see that. So I did use Slick Stick on the top of this because this is the old French Provincial cream color furniture. You guys have probably seen it everywhere. Has the gold trimmer around the edge, that sort of thing. That's what this was. And so the top was super slick, and I went in and I put the Slick Stick on it so that my cotton would have something to adhere to. That's super, super important. A lot of times it's super slick. You really can't break down that unless you hit it with a sander, and that's a lot of work. So I mean, why do it if you don't have to, right? So all I did was add the Slick Stick, let it cure overnight. In this temperature here, it's curing rather quickly. But and then what the colors you're seeing here is the cotton and also the manatee gray. So I have come in with my, I just have a brush here. Look, you can tell it's a well-used brush. This is just an old chip brush. It's not anything fancy, 2-inch chip brush. What I'm doing with this is coming in here, and I am going to, just what I want to say, I am actually going to dry brush some of my cotton onto my hardware. I always paint my hardware. It's just my signature look. So if you don't like your hardware done like that, you can always pull your hardware, clean it up, and put your original hardware back on. But in this case, since it was the gold that went like around the edges, I just painted it because it just really gives it a real vintage kind of French country cottage feel. And so that's what we're doing here tonight. We are going to come in here and we are going to dry brush. And I can't wait, Miss Terry. Thank you for jumping on with me tonight. And I'm glad that I've got my phone working. It's crazy. I had to delete the app, my Facebook app, and start all over again. I had no earthly idea what was going on. So my brush is actually damp, and because I had just cleaned it, so it's damp. If it's not, I would mist it. So you see I've got a little bit of that white. I know this brush looks terrible, but it works perfect for what I'm going to do. And I got a paper plate. Miss Terry, you know me, I always got to have my paper plate. So I'm going to knock that paint off. I call it just kind of tamping that paint off of that brush. So I'm just going, this is called dry brushing, and I'm going to hit my hardware with it, and then we're going to hit this mirror. So I want to show you guys how that works. A lot of people ask me, what is dry brushing? Well, this is dry brushing, and you can see I kind of went around this edge also. And I did that. I just kind of took my brush and drug it along the edge and created that lighter line so that it would just kind of pop a little bit, give it a little bit of vintage feel. So now, and I'm not left-handed, so y'all, I'm going to have to try and do this. I'm not going to be able to do it that way. I might switch sides with you because I'm right-handed. So I'll probably get paint everywhere. But if you get paint everywhere, just grab you a baby wipe. No big deal. Have a baby wipe on hand, you clean it back off, and if that doesn't work, let it dry overnight and just come back in. That's what I love about Dixie Belle paint, is I can come in here. If I get white on the edges of this, it's no worry. Let it dry. I can come back in with a little brush tomorrow, a little artist brush, artesian brush, and come in here and paint that, and you will never know because our paint dries right back in and doesn't leave a beginning and end line, which is wonderful with Dixie Belle. You can't find that in a lot of paints. A lot of these Benjamin Moore paints and paints like that, I'm going to switch sides with you. You may see some of my junk in the background. I don't really need you to see me. I just want you to see the process. So I'm just taking this paint now that I have tamped off on my... Now I'm going to show you real close so you guys that have been asking me questions. Some of my colleagues down, or I shouldn't say, I guess colleagues, and ladies down south in Florida have been asking, trying to get up here to do a workshop, and things have just been kind of crazy. So I apologize if you're seeing anything in the background. So I'm just going really lightly, taking that white off of that brush, and I'm going to hit my hardware with it. So I'm only hitting the high areas of this hardware so that it'll make my hardware pop. So you can see, and it vintages it out. I guess I'm saying that right. And it just kind of creates such a lovely, and you can see a little bit of the white on my gray here. That's what I'm talking about. I'm going to come back in with a little brush tomorrow. I'm not worried about it because that's how I do it. But this is how I get my hardware to just look so amazing. And this is called dry brushing. And I would drag it along this edge, which I have already done. You guys can see that. I had actually thought of distressing it, and then the cream from underneath kind of shows through. So if you don't like that and you want it to be more your two-tone, whatever colors you're using, you can do this with any color, obviously, because this is just dry brushing. Getting a little more paint here on my brush, and I'm taking it back off. Okay, that's the key. I don't normally use this big of a plate, but it's what I had. You know, we go with what we got. And now I'm gonna try to point you down a little bit here so you guys can see what I'm doing. And now I'm gonna do the same thing on this bottom one. I just kind of go light at first, just kind of get a feel, kind of holding the brush. My arms are sore and tired from painting this set. But if you just kind of hold your brush really lightly, just kind of drag it across the high notes, and you see how that's just kind of making that hardware just kind of say, hey, look at this vintage, beautiful French vintage look. Why would you not want to paint your hardware? I know it's my signature thing. Not everybody likes to do that, but this is such gorgeous hardware. You would never see that detail if you don't paint it. If you leave it just the brass or bronze or whatever it is underneath. When I paint it, it just makes that craftsmanship, all those wonderful ladies curves just kind of pop out at you. And this is actually going in a female's bedroom. So this set, I have done the whole set very similar. And see how easy that is? I am just, and look at the difference. So you have that nice, lovely contrast coming in, pulling in your cotton off of your top. Now, I did not put a top coat on the top of this just yet, but I am going to put the clear coat satin on here. And I will probably just easy peasy spray wax the rest of it. Now, I did take our sanding sponge, and you guys, we have these up at our booth areas where we sell our paint. So these little sponges, they last forever and a day. And I use them until you can't even feel any sanding, any sandpaper whatsoever. But that is perfect for knocking down and making a lot of people don't like chalk paint because it's so rough when you paint. But I take this and I knock it back to where it just feels like baby's bottom smooth. So if you love your smooth furniture, the top of this just as slick as a baby's bottom. But it's because I came in here and used a well-used already. Don't throw these away. Use them over and over again. Knock down that helps knock down that chalky rough feel. And then when you come in with your cloth, so I use a t-shirt material and I put my Easy Peasy spray wax on this, and I will spray this down, and that will seal my paint. Not that Dixie Belle requires you to seal anything. It's just my preference because I love, it's easier to clean. It's that nice, smooth, even a lot of my clients, I'll tell them, if you're going to dust this furniture, just dust it with the Easy Peasy spray wax. You don't need to put Old English or Pledge or any of that kind of thing on it. It's just so smooth. You wouldn't believe how smooth. You can even tell just being chalk paint. But I'm going to move this little guy out of my way here, and we're going to come in, and we are going to do the same thing to this really, really, really cool old vintage mirror. So I'm going to bring y'all in. Yeah, you'll probably see a bunch of mess in here. If you see my mess, I apologize. I've got my door cracked over here. Hopefully a snake won't come in because it's hot and I needed some air. And I'm going to take my shoes off, move them out of my way. I really need to move this little guy a little bit further. Move him back as far as I can without messing him up. There we go. Or messing y'all up. And I'm going to bring y'all in here So I want you to be able to see. We're gonna do the same technique here, sorry, on this piece here. I'm trying to see where this is showing you. So I'm gonna bring you in closer. I know y'all don't need to see me, but look at this gorgeous mirror. Now this is plastic, and I did take the slick stick on this plastic now, and I put slick stick on it. I painted it all in slick stick first. So that's what you kind of see underneath here. And I also came in with the Manatee Gray after it dried and painted it in Manatee Gray. Now we are going to hit this with some dry brushing, and we're gonna make it kind of pop out, kind of like we're doing up here on the hardware. So that's what we're gonna do to this piece. And it's called dry brushing. That is the technique. And I did come in here actually and I sanded with this little, sorry if I bobbled you, I just took this and sanded along the edge of this and just kind of knocked it down a little bit. So let me grab my paint. Now I'm using cotton. You guys can use any color. You could have this sea glass and then come in here with cotton. You could, you know, flip it around and paint it all white and then come in here with the gray. It's really your preference. But the wall that this is going on is white, so I wanted to do the gray so it will pop, so that we will have a nice contrast. So apologize for bumping you guys. So now I'm taking that same ugly little brush. Don't throw your little chip brushes out. Clean them out and use them for dry brushing. I use these for waxing, and I also use for dry brush paint. And this is my technique for doing it. Hopefully I'm not gonna, I know it's riding on there back behind me here. So I'm gonna just take it and I'm gonna do the same thing here. I'm just gonna come in and I'm gonna hit the high notes. Look how it's gonna start making this. This is a beautiful mirror, but guess what? You're not gonna see that unless you come in here and do a little bit of dolling up. So I'm gonna come in here. Again, this is my cotton. I know my cotton got all dirty, but you know, that's how it is. So again, I'm putting some paint on it, not a whole lot you see. And guess what? Yes, I'm gonna take what little paint I got on there and I'm gonna tap it back off. The key to it is called dry brushing, and the reason we call it dry brushing is because we try to get that paint as dry as we can off of there, but just enough so it can highlight some of these areas. So I'm just gonna pull it across here, and I'm just gonna highlight along this. And hopefully you guys can kind of see that kind of take place on here. I'm even gonna kind of drag it in around the edges. Sometimes you can do it this way, and it'll just kind of, so you, when you are dry brushing, you don't have a lot of paint on your brush. So maybe you guys can see how that's coming. Let me move you over. And I'm sorry I got that fan running, but you know, I would melt if I, no, I'm not made out of sugar, but whew, it is some kind of hot out here. So here I'm gonna hit this again over here. So I'm using this very old brush, but hey, it works. All I'm trying to do is hit the high notes. I'm not trying to paint anything. I'm just trying to hit the high notes. I feel like Bob Ross, you know, when he was talking. Yes, I grew up watching Bob Ross. How many of you guys grew up listening to Bob Ross? I guess that says how old I am, right? Uh-huh. Let me bring y'all over here so you can see. Yes, ancient. Okay, so we're gonna come up in this corner. Hopefully my big head won't be in the way, and you guys can see tamping it off. I call it tamping. I don't know if that is what they call it. And we'll come in here and I'm gonna make this beautiful detail. Now, mind you, this was just one of those, excuse me, I'm sweating, one of these old gold mirrors. Just an old gold mirror. Yep, I'm just gonna dry brush me some cotton on up in here and make some of that gorgeous detail. Look at the gorgeous detail on this mirror. No, you would not believe it. And it was gold. I'll try to get pictures out there tomorrow and show you guys what the befores. You can come on in here on the edge. I put this paper on here because I know you guys don't need to see my sweaty face up close, right? So I'm just gonna come in here and hit these high notes. I want it to be vintage. Maybe I can point you all down here with me. Here we go. Sorry, I'm working, and when I'm working, I'm not thinking about you guys being able to watch on that. So I'm just hitting it on the edges. So you can see I'm very lightly hitting this. So see, I'm gonna hit all this gorgeous detail and make this French country cottage just kind of come alive in this room. So that's how I create these looks with these pieces. Just an old chip brush, a paper plate, and some paint, guys. That's it. It doesn't matter what paint you use. I think the same technique. Obviously, I use Dixie Belle chalk paint. I just think, for me, it's one of the best out there. Obviously, that's why I promote it and sell it. So I'm going to come right in here. Hopefully y'all can see. Look how that detail is popping off. And I'm going to rotate this probably while we're sitting here. If you guys have never tried dry brushing, this is dry brushing. This is creating just that vintage country cottage feel and making this old, this was basically an old derelict gold mirror, plastic frame mirror. Okay, and now it is going to be the showcase on the wall. Can you believe it? I mean, it is just going to be gorgeous. So we are recycling, and if you feel like, you want it a little bit stronger, you want that detail to show out a little bit more, then you just come back in and hit it a little bit more. If you want it to be a little bit bolder, hey, go big or go home, right? So just come in there and just make it pop. Make it come off there a little bit more. I love the French cottage country feel when you do this. I love vintaging pieces out. Obviously, this is already an old mirror, but we're just going to make it really shine tonight. I'm going to come over here on this side. And if you guys are with me tonight, let me know you're here. Say hello. I know sometimes I'm on at times it's inconvenient for other people. So now we're coming into this corner here. I'll be careful not to flick it over there on my finished work, as my piece is just kind of still sitting there. So I'm just kind of highlighting along that edge. Sorry, I want you to see my piece, not me. And let me get a little more paint here, because I do have the fan blowing in here. So it's drying my paint on my brush a little quicker than it normally would. Won't be long, it'll be cold in my garage, and then I'll be all bundled up. Because I'm a Floridian and I'll freeze. So I can handle the heat easier than I can handle the cold. So I'm just going to come in here and touch these high notes. I'm just barely dragging this brush tip across this to get this just gorgeous effect. This is not a lot of work. First paint it your base coat and then come in, with your highlight color. And I'm obviously using the cotton because that's what I've used on this lady's furniture everywhere else. And I'm going to bring you down here, and then I'm going to rotate. So my brush is getting a little stiff because it's drying. Yeah, that's okay. Chalk paint dries pretty quickly. But since I'm dry brushing, it's not too big of a deal. And I'm just going to continue to work that paint where I want it. What the heck, Just enjoy it. Now I'm going to rotate this out. Maybe without hitting anything. And when you dry brush, it dries, that's a heavy mirror. It dries relatively quickly because, we're already working with it. Basically knocked off most of the paint, and I'm going to continue on. And this will be our tutorial for tonight. So I'm just going to come in here and put it up on here. Hopefully, let me get y'all a little closer. I don't know what I'm hung on back there. Let's get y'all up here so y'all can see. So I'm just kind of letting my brush drag across the piece. And you can kind of see how it's creating that look. And that's the technique I use. Of course, you see my brush is all a mess here. It's nothing fancy. Even some of that paint's drying on the outer edge. Doesn't matter. You can clean them up or throw them away. It's your preference. Tapping that back off again and coming in and hitting it some more. You don't gotta hit it heavy, or don't mean to say heavy, I mean hard. You gotta just kind of drag it across there lightly. And come in here some more. I'm gonna add a little on it, because what the heck, we can, right? I used to love to listen to Bob Ross and him say, oh, we'll just put us just a little tree right over here. And what about a little water here? You know, he just made it look so simple. I'd be like, if I could ever paint like that, it'd be wonderful. But, you know, don't, I can't paint like that. He's wonderful. But we have some amazingly talented Dixie Belle artists who can paint like that, believe it or not. And here we go. I'm just going to come in here. Here I was going to be like a Bob Ross, right? And here we go. We're going to make these flowers just kind of step out and say, hello. Welcome to the show, right? I'm just going to come in here, keep adding. And then I'm going to come here on the top, just kind of drag it along the edge. And what he always used to say, happy painting something, I don't know. He was always a happy painter. And now I'm just going to come back in here and add some more where I've got this paint drying on my brush. But it's okay. It's enough to still, I don't want it to fall over. Grab it here so it don't. Just enough to fill in. Look at the gorgeous florals. Now, mind you, this was just an old, dried up, if you will, gold mirror. And now look at it. It says French Country Cottage. Here we come. We are going to, this is going to be beautiful on the wall now. So, there you have it, guys. This is your dry brush technique. And this is exactly how I make my hardware. Now you look at this beautiful mirror now, all that detail showing out at you. And that's exactly what I did up here on the hardware. We came across the hardware the exact same way and just kind of hit the high notes. And look at all the curves that comes out in that hardware, and that's what we've done here. And we've created that that illusion of that beautiful 3D effect, and subtle, but yet, you know, oh so, what do I want to say? Just very, 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 very nice. I love it. I love how it turns out when you dry brush old detail in. I'm just kind of going around the edge of this, making it kind of do the same. So what I do to one side, I try to do to the other. So I'm just using whatever's on the brush, and I'm coming up in along this edge. Yes, I didn't take this off, but I'm much better off. I'll just take a razor blade and I scrape it off. That's just my way. And just kind of work off whatever paint's still on my little brush. my brush. This is exactly how, if you were putting on, let's say you are putting on your wax, you could put it on the exact same way. So if that was black wax or brown wax or whatever the case may be, white wax, you could have done this with white wax, and it would have done the same thing, because the white wax would have come in and created the look and shown that off for you guys. So I know you guys are probably seeing a disaster in my space, but I'm gonna flip this guy around and show you. Maybe. This thing is heavy. My shoulders will ache tomorrow. So I'm gonna pull it back this way for you. So you can hear that that's just plastic. So if you don't think that you can come in there and paint the plastic, and I'm just actually gonna add, I'm gonna pull you in here. Sorry for the bubble, you guys. I know that probably just made it look terrible. I'm gonna add just a tad bit more up here, because it's a little brighter on that one side than it is over here. So I'm just gonna add a little bit more. Okay, because I can, right? This makes it look so regal. I don't know. I love dry brushing old vintage things like this. A lot of times, some of your furniture will have such beautiful ornate carvings, and I have found when you paint them and you leave them just painted, they just kind of don't show out quite as good as they do when you hit it with the dry brush, and you create that illusion of that 3D kind of popping out at you, and creating that vintage vibe, I think. Now, I know you could do this for shabby chic, French country cottage. Obviously, all of those work. Victorian, if you're a Victorian style, this same technique works great for that. So, I mean, it just doesn't matter what your style is. You can always kind of pop it and knock it out of the park using our paint products, or and just different techniques. It's all in the technique. And there you have it, guys. There is our dry brush effect on an old plastic mirror. So get that old mirror you got laying up in the attic if you want to practice at it. Is that the same? Hey, Donna, how are you? Sorry, girl. I was painting away and wasn't looking who was on here with me. Hope you're doing well. Thank you for being on with us tonight. Miss Terry, yes, that is the same sanding pad that you would use for your cushions. Yes, ma'am. That's exactly what I use. I don't use anything stronger than that. Let me grab her again. Where did I put her? Right here. So yes, you would take that very same sanding disc after your cushions are dried overnight and come and knock down, because it's going to feel a little chalky on your fabric. So you hit it with this 2 or 3 times with the little sanding disc. It's like maybe 120 grit. I think it's less than that even. And after you do that a couple of times, you will be able to spray your Easy Peasy spray wax. I take this spray wax and put it on your t-shirt material, and spray it on your t-shirt material, and then work it into your fabric. Then after you have it worked over your fabric cushion, then stand about, give yourself about 12 inches away from your fabric and mist it, and then buff it in. And it should end up like a very, plethora I call it. It's a very soft leather feel, even though it's still fabric. It won't crunch, it won't crack, it won't break. I know a lot of people think as long as you paint your upholstery, while you're painting your upholstery, and Terry, because you are, I'm pointing this out, as long as you keep it moist, I don't mean keep it wet, don't sop and wet, but use your mist bottle. Keep it misted while you're swirling your paint into your fabric. That is key. You always you mist your whole fabric piece first, mist your brush, make sure your brush is damp, and then you start painting. work in circular motions and keep it misted the whole entire time, and it'll work that paint down into the fabric. And then once it dries overnight, you'll come out and it'll feel chalky, and that's okay. Don't freak out. Then you'll take your sanding disc and you will sand it down, and it'll be soft again. And then you can use your spray wax, and that's just the process when you're painting fabric. So it'll turn out fine. You just have to be sure and keep it moist while you're working with it. So anyway, guys, I thank you all for jumping on with us. Terry, keep me posted. You have any questions, you just shoot it over at me and I'll help you as you're going along. And guys, I hope you have a very blessed weekend. Everybody stay safe, and maybe you can grab one of those old plastic mirrors that Grandma has up in the attic and practice. Don't forget your slick stick. Clean it really well first. Put your slick stick on, let it dry. In this heat, you got 3 or 4 hours and it'll be dry and you're good to go to paint. And then I'd let your paint sit overnight. And then you can start taking and doing your dry brushing with your other colors that you're using. So I hope you all enjoyed this tutorial tonight. If you have any questions, just shoot them over to me. I'll be happy to answer any of them that I can. And until then, I will see you guys next week. Be safe and have a great weekend, everyone. Bye for now.